Hey there, Bloomers and friends. It's great to be with you again this week. You know, after doing BloomTube last week, the very next morning, something unusual happened in my life. Something happened that has never happened to me before, and I doubt will ever happen again. And that is that our bloomer, Bill Davison, who was volunteering in the office last Thursday morning, to fold the bulletins and do the kinds of things that office volunteers do on Thursday mornings. He came in and he said, you know, as I was folding the bulletin, I happened to look on the back, and the little story that's on the back of bulletins every Sunday, well, it's about you, speaking to me. It's about me. And my knowing that there are a lot of other Kevin Johnsons in the world, and even some other Kevin A. Johnsons in the world, I said to him, oh, it must be about somebody else. It can't be about me. And he said, no, it's about you. Read it. And so I did. And if you pick this up and read it, you would know that it is one of the devotional type of stories, and it talks about weaving the future, and talks about people being able to say they're sorry in order to go into the future, like with an open heart, with a burden lifted. And they used as the example my experience in Kenosha, where the church told me to leave after they found out I was gay, and then 35 years later invite Mike, my husband, and me to come back for a weekend of reconciliation after that United Methodist Church had become a reconciling Ministries congregation. And they're basically putting forward the fact that see how lives can change even after many years, and even when you don't think that might happen. So it was stunning to have this experience and to read this, and to know that this bulletin was going to be in the hands of many, many people throughout the United Church of Christ, because this is on the printed bulletin service that we subscribe to throughout the United Church of Christ. And so that people sitting in churches throughout the United States would be having these bulletins and reading this story. So I had a couple things happen with that. Besides it being inspiring for me. One, I posted a photo of this back cover on Facebook, and just said a little something about it, and then let people read the story. It got the most response of any posting I have ever put on Facebook. Almost 200 likes, and a dozen or more shares, and 40 or 50 comments. That's the most activity anything I've ever put on Facebook has gotten, and so much of it was positive and grateful for this kind of thing to happen, that this kind of a message of reconciliation can be going out into the world. And in particular, I thought of a couple responses. One was somebody saying something along the lines of, just think that there might be some individual person out there who reads this bulletin on Sunday and it makes a big difference in their life. They can feel welcomed, they can have hope, there can be some sort of change that can happen in their life. And I thought about that. Maybe somebody. And then somebody else, a completely different person, took it to a different realm and said, just think, there might be some church out there that as a result of reading this, they do the same kind of action themselves, meaning they welcome someone back that they turned away because they were gay. Or maybe they will be inspired to become an open and affirming congregation and to take it to the next step, because out of the 5,000 churches in the UCC, there are 1,500 open and affirming congregations throughout the church. And so there's room for many more, and maybe something like this might inspire another church to do that. And finally, it was a little bittersweet, because one of my colleagues and friends, he is a former Methodist minister who had to leave when he was challenged for being gay, but he left the Methodist Church and went into the United Church of Canada, and was there in Vancouver for many years as a minister there, until retiring and moving back to Chicago. And he is someone that I knew from the Broadway church, who had been very active in the Methodist church, and was widely known in good ways, but then that was all tossed out when he came out as being gay. He moved to Chicago. We knew him well. He lives there now in retirement. And when he heard about this going on in Kenosha, he and another member of the Broadway congregation drove up, and they were in the congregation at Kenosha on that day. And it was so nice to see them there. And he wrote on Facebook that he was glad to be there on the day for this worship service because it was so inspiring for him. But he knew that it wouldn't, and he was certain, and he knew that he could not look forward to this ever happening for himself. And that was a dose of reality in the midst, and a kind of a cold water dose of sadness in the midst of all the happiness that can be associated with this. But what it is a dose of reality in the midst of our lives. That is the fact that there still are people that are never going to be able to experience the same kind of reconciliation I did, because there are still people with very hardened hearts and stiff necks, to use biblical metaphors, about the issue of LGBT people and leadership in the church. So what I hope we'll do is pray thanksgiving and joy for this experience that I had, and for this experience of this bulletin cover being throughout our United Church of Christ. But let's also pray out of our concerns and support for those people that still experience sadness because they were sent away and have not yet experienced reconciliation. And we, as individuals, can be bearers of reconciliation throughout our lives and throughout our churches. So let's go do that. This is Communion Sunday at Bloom. Malcolm Swan will be providing our music. It'll be another time to get together and to experience this ancient practice that we do in our very contemporary lives. We hope you'll be with us. And if you can't be with us in body, please be with us in spirit. And as always, please keep us in your prayers.